The biggest non-Shedeur Sanders storyline of the 2025 draft is Quinn Ewers, who will have money on the table to enter the NFL draft, and I wonder how he feels about that choice now. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching the #1 college football show, welcome. Thank you for joining us here. We talk football year-round right here, so if you're into that, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and like this video. Let me know. Do you think Quinn Ewers should have transferred from Texas and perhaps pursued one more year in college, if for no other reason than to avoid such a fate? I'm sitting down here to do this segment after watching Cam Miller be selected in the 6th round by the Las Vegas Raiders. If you don't know who the Las Vegas Raiders just selected, I would not begrudge you. I would not hold that against you. Because A, it's Saturday, probably have things to do, and you're not a degenerate like me watching the NFL draft. And B, Cam Miller was a second-team FCS All-American at North Dakota State. So the chances are you didn't watch him play football at all in college, which is not necessarily that big a deal. But given that Quinn Ewers was the #1 overall recruit in his class, had signed early to go to Ohio State so that he could collect on a name, image, and likeness deal that was worth millions, and then transferred to Texas, where he led Texas to back-to-back bursts in the college football playoff. You seem to think what I think, which is what gives here, because the air that we have been giving to Shedeur Sanders and him falling in the draft, depending on who you believe, he's lost between $35 and $45 million in that fall. First, you can't lose what you never had. Second, it's not really that big a deal for Shedeur Sanders because he's okay. Meanwhile, what you wanted to stave off was the embarrassment of not being drafted or selected at all after you didn't go in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. Shedeur Sanders goes in the 5th. Then we're deep into the 6th with just a few picks left, and we're looking at Quinn Ewers, who at best could end up with Brock Purdy status, which is a 7th-round quarterback that somehow finds his way into the starting job at one of the 32 NFL franchises and turns around this story. But this is also a man that ESPN put a camera on going into day 2 of the draft. We got to see all of the hunted animals in his living room, and we got the even more vision on what it is that dude is about. When I talked to Quinn Ewers Big 12 Media Days, one of my favorite things to note was the skull ring in his jeans. This is also a dude that showed up to Texas with a lot of fanfare and started playing for a program that, frankly, he should have been playing for from the very beginning. From South Lake Carroll, was really great. Led the Dragons to a state championship berth against Cade Klubnik's Austin Westlake. Cade Klubnik and Austin Westlake went to beat him. Also on that Austin Westlake team is Jaden Greathouse, who is a wide receiver 1 at Notre Dame right now and had the first 100-yard receiving performance by a Notre Dame wide receiver last year. You got Quinn Ewers, who was throwing passes to Xavier Worthy, who is throwing passes to Ryan Wingo, who's throwing passes to Gunnar Helms. And the way that I have no choice but to read this is the NFL believes that if Arch Manning was the starting quarterback at Texas last year and not Quinn Ewers, you're probably looking at a national champion Texas, because that is how far down the order he has gone. I realize that Shedeur Sanders is a lightning rod, and I realize that there are a lot of people that are very interested, I should say, have an opinion about Shedeur Sanders and his prospects in the NFL and what he might be able to do with the Cleveland Browns, who are going to open up the job, Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur. But after the Raiders had made their selection, you have to wonder, is he an undrafted free agent? And in so being that, he's not going to make the kind of money that he would have made had he chosen to transfer. A lot of Texas fans lauded him for choosing to enter the NFL draft rather than go compete for another job somewhere else and perhaps beating Texas, or staying at Texas and forcing a QB derby with Arch Manning. A lot of Texas fans want to see Arch Manning just inherit the job, give it to him. We know he's got the skill set, but a lot of Texas fans would also tell you it's a better football team when Arch Manning's on the field because he's not a statue back there. He can move around, and he can do all the things that Quinn Ewers could supposedly do. Ewers, who came out and had a huge arm and was accurate. That's how you get to be one of the best quarterbacks in your draft class in your recruiting class. And then you're able to reclassify to enter in early lost a job out to C.J. Stroud, which is not that big a deal as he's a true freshman and a year behind. And Steve Sarkisian would go out of his way to say, I believe that Texas's best chance to win a championship is with Quinn Ewers at quarterback. Whether or not that was true still allows him to protect Arch Manning for 2025. You don't want to throw him out there until you have to. And there's already reason to believe that Arch Manning might not enter the NFL draft next year, for which people might begin tanking for Arch Manning because he's going to be clearing away the number one rated player going in the NFL draft if he declares. That's a dicey game in and of itself. But this is a horrible draft class for QBs, depending on who you ask. But when you look at the guys that are drafted ahead of Quinn Ewers, you have to ask some real questions. Riley Leonard drafted before Quinn Ewers, as was Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, Tyler Shuck. My goodness. Jackson Dart is one thing. Tyler Shuck is another. Jalen Milroe, another. Kyle McCord, another. Will Howard, another. It's getting really difficult to defend this, and this is where I am really at my wit's end going, okay, y'all told me this dude could play. That's why he went in the NFL draft. I didn't believe you. I thought he should have transferred. I thought he should have done what Carson Beck did, because Carson Beck would have probably suffered the same fate. They're similar quarterbacks, but Carson Beck saw what Cam Ward was able to do with just one more year at Miami, and that's go number one, right? If you're Quinn Ewers, you probably make $5 million to transfer to almost anywhere else. And I can think of a number of places that would enjoy having a Quinn Ewers as their starting quarterback. And all of those places expect to contend for the national championship. Off the rip, if you are interested in a quarterback and you feel like you're very, very close and you just need to get over the top, what happens if Quinn Ewers decided to transfer to Alabama? Is it still Ty Simpson? Is it still Keelan Russell? I doubt it. What would happen if Quinn Ewers decided to transfer to Florida State? What would happen if Quinn Ewers decided to transfer to USC? What would happen if Quinn Ewers decided to transfer to Oregon, Penn State, on down the line? I believe that Quinn Ewers is a better quarterback than Drew Aller. I think he's a better quarterback than Jaden Mayava. I think he's a better quarterback than Ty Simpson. That's just off it, right? But again, this is not a player that needed the money and obviously just wanted to move on and play in the NFL. But now that we're here and now that we're seeing what this is wrought, hindsight is 2020, and it's as clear as anything that you've seen throughout this entire weekend, which has been wild. Like, the Shedeur Sanders storyline is one thing, because that's a first-round draft pick for many, right? On the nature of the position value and where he ranked on many draft boards. But as much as people are dunking on Mel Kiper for having Shedeur Sanders at near the top of his list of quarterbacks, he did have Quinn Ewers 10 of 10 when we're talking about quarterbacks in position. And guys like Riley Leonard were ranked ahead of him. So if nothing else, there was more of a consensus on Quinn Ewers probably falling to this space than there was a Shedeur Sanders, which leads us back to Texas. Should Texas feel that much better about their chances in 2025 to win the national championship now that they know, the NFL knows, they had a better quarterback loaded and ready to go when they go play Ohio State on August 31st? I believe Quinn Ewers did himself a disservice. I believe Quinn Ewers should have played one more year of college football in the Big Ten, the ACC, Big 12, and then see what happens. If nothing else, you're going to make way more money playing in college for one more year than you will trying to make a team in the NFL in 2025. My goodness.